Oh my gosh, guys, I'm almost out of power. 11% and it's 5 a.m. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Oh, please don't get me Freddy. Please don't get me Freddy. Come on. Is this what it takes to get views on YouTube? What is this?
Five Nights at Freddy's is a point-and-click horror game filled with jump scares,
my neighbor's gonna call the police on me, man.
hidden lore, and a questionable community. Since its inception, Five Nights at Freddy's has spawned 13 games, 12 books, a movie, and popularized an entire genre. That being mascot horror, which is a type of horror that is defined by having a recognizable mascot, often associated with children's media, who's either corrupted or scary, or just associated with a scary context. Some examples of this being Poppy Playtime, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Choo Choo Charlie, and Garden of Bandan, just to name a few. Five Nights at Freddy's, due to its nature of having a very ambiguous story and having games drop every other month, like I'm not kidding, look at these release dates, it got very big on YouTube. Its replayability was amazing, its story had just enough for people like MatPat to continue theorizing, then rinse and repeat. Another installment would come out, and restarting the entire process. It truly felt like the golden age of gaming content on YouTube, and that's how most of the titans of YouTube even got so big in the first place. And with such a huge following, you bet your ass everyone and their mother at least heard of Five Nights at Freddy's at least once. And with virality comes many trend chasers, and with trend chasers comes fan games and heavily inspired spin-off series. One such game being This is Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. This is something I stumbled upon through a YouTuber by the name of Plain Trace. It opened up a world that I never even knew existed, that being ransomware FNAF games. If you don't know what ransomware is, it's exactly as it sounds. It's a malware that blocks the user from files or just access to their computers. This is usually done alongside the threat of ransom, telling the victims they'll allow access once being paid a certain amount. Graveyard Shift at Freddy's carries a lot of similarities to a FNAF game that actually popularized the subgenre, that being Freddy's Ransomware. Now, I actually have no idea what this game is about on a deeper level, and I honestly don't want to do research on it as of right now, just because this very well may be something that I'm going to work on as a future project. So I actually just did a quick search, and it's literally just a video on YouTube. It's not a game, so I don't think there'll be a future project on this. But the reason I bring this up in the first place is really because the aesthetic that is carried by ransomware subgenres, the special effects of how your computer would interact with malware virus, and how if you blink you'll miss a pop-up image that'll jump onto the screen, or from the very grainy videos or strong contrast images shown in the game. These are all properties that Grave Shift at Freddy's has going for it, and it's what makes it honestly incredibly terrifying off of first impressions. If you guys are interested in what Graveyard Shift at Freddy's has to offer, well, strap in, because this one's going to be a crazy ride. Night 1. So the first thing I realized when opening this game was, well, the terrifying wording used for traditional options you'd see in any starting menu. You don't have the start game option, instead you have endure. You don't have options, but instead you have make your selection. Then you have honor and praise, which is unavailable, so that's great, can't be good. Then you have goodbye instead of quit game. Not to mention, while this is going on, you hear a constant glitching noise with these images that flash onto the screen. I'm sure these images will be significant at some point, but right now, we'll just have to wait and see what exactly these nightmarish images mean and are trying to elude. And then, when you click endure, the plunge into hell begins. Moving on, local news. It's been a week since our very own Sam Rodriguez has gone missing, and no leads have been found by the Denver Police Department. As many might know, Rodriguez was a journalist for us here in the TDR News Network and was working on a story about Colorado's infamous entertainment venue, Fredbear's Eatery and Fun. However, following a trip to Fredbear's, Rodriguez vanished and has yet to be seen since. Despite DPD's search for the young man, he still remains missing. And with that, Night 1 begins. Per usual to every FNAF game out there, we have a phone guy who calls us and runs us through the game's mechanics. Slight lore hints about the character we're playing as, and that something strange is happening here. For one, our camera has a switch time. Once it's through, you'll have to switch through all the cameras in the building to get to the same room, but speeding it up will make the connection bad and you won't be able to see a thing. So the aim is to stay calm, time your switch, and try to predict what the animatronic will do. I did not do any of those things. Mind you, I have never once played a single FNAF game, so of course I did the smart thing and jumped headfirst into one of the scarier ones, and I got jump scared over.
Dude, that was really loud.
And over. I didn't even use and over.
Got me behind here. Oh, he's right here.
But like I said, you have to stay calm under pressure. Some other mechanics I failed to mention. So with the camera you also have an alarm. On the first night you're only dealing with just Bonnie. Bonnie likes to try and flank you or enter the back or the right of the room. So in order to make sure Bonnie will stay where you see them, you'll use the alarm to get the animatronic out of your blind spot. In front of you, obviously you have a light, most FNAF games have, but with the added ability to use the shutter gate in front of you if Bonnie comes and decides to jump scare you. And one other thing, when your connection goes bad, all you have to do is turn off your router for a few seconds and turn it back on. Trust me guys, it only took me 6 steps to understand this much. And finally, when the music starts playing, I knew that the night was nearing its end, and we get past night 1 and are met with an interaction. Is that all? Well, the kitchen's clean, the mascots are a bit stinky, so you're definitely gonna need to fix that. Yeah, what else, Newsom? Well, I think that's... What's that smell? I beg your pardon? That smell? Where is it coming from? Wait, did you hear that? What? The floor here, it's hollow. Oh, that's a cellar. It's just storage down there. Well, I'm going to need to see what's inside. May I? Yeah, sure. Follow me. Now, before we move on to night 2, there is one detail I failed to mention, that being within the game over screen. Every time you die, a paragraph of words would show up, and post-editing, you're actually able to make out almost a live interview given by Steve Raglan, one of the co-founders of this place. He talks about Sam's death in a brutal detail. Sam is the character we play as, of course. He's the messenger. He's the journalist reporter for TDR. In the original FNAF, the animatronics almost seemed confused, attacking the guard because they look eerily similar to the man that put them in that predicament in the first place, oftentimes making the death as quick as possible. However, in Graveyard Shift, it's said that these puppets gouged out Sam's eyes, left him with an exposed ribcage, removed his hands, likely done when Sam tried to fight back, and they left him mutilated and his body in a state far beyond human comprehension. Night 2. Steve Raglan, who I failed to mention was the phone guy for the first night, jokes about that little surprise he gave us. He says it's a bit of hazing he does to newcomers, not telling them that the puppets up and move. Obviously we know they do more than just hug us. He says not much will change, just keep an eye out on everything and we'll be fine. And sure enough, he was not lying. The night 2 goes the same way. Bonnie is just noticeably more aggressive, but honestly, that's about it. I found the strat to be, don't use the fucking alarm. If you overuse the alarm, Bonnie will straight up just stop caring.
Oh my god.
So the best thing to do is just simply find Bonnie and watch their movements until the very last moment, then use the alarm to get them from behind you, then stalk Bonnie some more, then shut the shutter in his face. And with that, night 2 is a breeze. Entry 175, July 7th, 1974. Things aren't looking good for Fredbears right now. I told them countless times, I warned them about what would happen if they tried to leave, and yet they didn't listen. Last night after closing, Wolfgang attempted to break out of the restaurant. Let's just say he didn't get far before collapsing in agony. Before opening, I found his remains, or at least what was left of them. Hopefully he didn't make any noise that would alert the nearby businesses. I cleaned up whatever pile of ash was left, threw it away as is. However, for the bones, I've saved them for closing and then showed them to the others. They understand their place now. None of them can leave. Burned to ashes, they say, and kept its bones. Very interesting. And I'm talking about very interesting. I'm thinking this is another situation to like Poppy Playtime. The animatronics, no, the puppets are living and breathing creatures, and it seems that they're very, very hungry organic beasts, not robot suits possessed with dead children. Also, I'm not 100% sure who's talking during this scene, but I'm willing to bet it's just Steve Raglan, which makes this entire plot of the game even more scary. Steve tried to rule these things with fear, but it seems like this only made the beast even more aggressive and blood hungry. And let's also talk about what happened to Wolfgang. So Wolfgang is actually an animatronic we never see, but we do see a cardboard cutout that you could find online or even in the game. But what happened to it? Because he said it didn't get far before it collapsed in agony and burnt to a crisp, and that's when he swept up its ashes but kept its bones. So what exactly is going on here? Are we to say that he made some type of deal with the devil and it's actually on both sides and that's why they haven't escaped just yet? Could that be what's going on here? Is that Steve Raglan needs to employ these people and then they need to feed, but within this contract, within whatever is going on, they are only able to feed in the restaurant until that agreement is broken. Otherwise, if they try to escape, they'll burn to a crisp, if ash, and die. Kind of crazy. Night 3. The third night rolls around, and this time we're shown something new. If you look, you can see a new text has appeared. The music keeps her calm. Don't let it stop playing. Steve calls once again and is surprised by the fact that we even made it so far. He states how people normally leave by now, or they die. But he doesn't say that. Anyways, this night will be a little different. One of the puppets likes to wander around, but instead of using the alarms, you'll have to keep the music playing at all times so that way the puppet does not wander and, well, kill you. Throughout the night, much of the same. Bonnie would try to flank you when you're 6, all the while you have to keep an eye out on him and misdirect them purposefully with the alarm. now with the added task of keeping the music playing. Not too hard, but still, this is only night 3. Mrs. Rodriguez, I assure you, no one at Freddy's Bears is the cause of your son's disappearance. Cut the bullshit, Wells. You know damn well that something's going on at this crack house your client calls a restaurant. I'm telling you right now, Mrs. Dole, your client's son did not disappear from Mr. Raglan's establishment. Sam Rodriguez was the last seen around Freddy's Bears. That already disproves your claim. Which doesn't exactly mean it's my client's fault. For all we know, he could have disappeared after he left. I know it was Mr. Raglan did it. What? Excuse me? Raglan's Eatery has a reputation of disappearing staff. What? Now that's just outrageous. I know you know where my boy is. Mrs. Rodriguez, please calm down. She's right, Mrs. Rodriguez. My client could sue you for... Your client kidnapped my boy. Whoa, hey now. Janice, I just want to see my boy again. I just want to see my boy again. There's actually a lot of words going out right now because I'm out here reading it and it's finally coming together. So when I had read it the first time, I was a little confused. I was like, are we talking about... So I was trying to envision it in my head. I was trying to figure out what they were even talking about. So they were talking about at some point that a child actually snuck in to Freddy Bear's Eatery and Fun. We know how that ended. And so everyone is like, yo, I know Raglan's up to no good. We know that he is the problem, but he's not actively taking these children. It's the monsters within the restaurant. So he snuck in, he got taken up, he got eaten up, right? And so I was thinking when I first read this was Sam Rodriguez's mother. But what I failed to realize is that it's two mothers there. We actually have a person named Janice. I believe Janice is Janice Rodriguez. I think that would be the full name because Janice knows that people or staff members have been disappearing from this establishment for a while now. But it actually began with just the mother of the little boy. So far, we only know as Mrs. Dole or Mrs. Dolez. I don't know how to say her name. But that's just crazy to think about because I think they're talking about the lawyer or they're talking to the lawyer or at least someone who represents Mr. Raglan or Steve Raglan. And yeah, they're like, yo, we know that you're lying, bro. Oh, and then the fact that they refer to Janice as like a first name basis must imply that Janice and the little boy's mother knew each other to some degree because it wasn't just Mrs. Rodriguez, can you chill out? They were like, Janice, they can sue. And then he was like, I don't care, y'all kidnapped my boy. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, from what it sounds like, it just seems that this was far from the first time that these puppets have acted aggressively and ended up killing someone. And it really seems that Steve is doing a poor job controlling them and is constantly sweeping disappearances under the rug. So, not a good look. Night 4. Night 4 introduces yet another puppet to the fray, this one being a bit tricky to get rid of and pretty much throws my entire strategy out of the window. The way to get rid of this thing is to make sure that the camera does not switch while you see it, right? Even if that means just putting the camera down and stalling for a bit. The reason this sucks is, well, that's all I've been doing. Just letting the camera run until the very last moment, so of course, I die a lot. Though once getting the groove of it all, it's not too hard per se. Just again, you need to keep account of so many things, but also you have to remain calm, cool, and collected, and try not to waste too many resources. And when you do, Night 4 is a breeze, and we get yet another entry. Entry 806, April 8th, 2017. He's getting too far ahead. I thought they would have gotten him by now. Our system used to work so well. What's changed now? Is this a sign? A sign from the universe, from God? I don't know. What I do know is that I've been getting nightmares again. As if I was in his position, sitting at that damn ticket booth. That garbage security system was still there. The broken computer still there. Everything, my creations, they were gone. At least, I thought they were. Then, I saw the camera in the playroom. The hatch opened up and out came one of them, Fredbear. He looked different, like he changed, as if he was slowly wearing down just like me. He acted more rabid than before, a far cry from his usual behavior. He was beyond hunger. Of course, it ended for me the same way it ended for all the poor souls before me, being dragged down into the darkness. It's clear to me now, this is all coming to an end. Well, that settles it. Steve knows how dangerous these things are, and to keep them at bay, he gives people jobs at the ticket booth, knowing the risk and allowing them to do it anyway, becoming food for the beasts. Though our character Sam, he just refuses to die. And finally, night 5. Steve drops the act and just completely comes clean. He says no one has ever made it so far, and that he has no idea what's going to happen now. He asks us very logical questions like, why the hell did we come back after the first night? And shit, he's kinda spitting. Why are we here? What's our goal? And why are we so damn fearless? None of that matters, however, as he says,
the only way this ends is for you to die. Mr. Rodriguez, this is the last time we will be speaking to one another. May God have mercy on the both of us.
Damn. There's one new puppet. This one, how to get rid of it is to keep the camera on it as long as possible, then it will leave. Though, there is a strange feeling in the air. It seems that the puppets are pretty much just toying with Sam at this point. There would be times it had a perfect opportunity to strike, but it acted as if it couldn't get past the shutter gate, or at least just playing ding dong ditch and would run away. Then, the ending happens. You finish, 6 a.m. is upon you, but right before you can pack up and leave, a newspaper clipping is shown. I think it's better to just read it out to you guys at this point. The Denver Police Department were contacted to Fredbear's Eatery and Fun, a long-standing local entertainment venue, following what was reported to be a loud scream coming from the building. When officers arrived at the scene, the entrance lobby to the local venue was in a wreck. A window shutter was found smashed alongside a messy office showing some sort of struggle had occurred. Police also found the ID card of the building's security guard, Sam Rodriguez, who police were able to identify as a reporter for TDR News Network, having worked undercover on a story about the location. Rodriguez's disappearance comes 4 weeks after the disappearance of the health inspector Gibson Newson, who disappeared in early March of this year after routine inspection of the building. DPD, Denver Police Department, believes that the two cases are in fact connected and strongly suspect foul play. We are convinced that Sam Rodriguez's disappearance was not random crime, and we will be questioning the venue's owner, Steve Ragland, for more information on the case. DPD Detective Sherman Bynes. Now, with the game complete, you are allowed to play the hard mode of this game called Grave Danger Mode. Not much is new about this game except that everything's harder and that you only have 3 lives And if you die within those 3 lives, you have to restart it all the way back. And I'm not just talking about restarting the night. No, if you're on night 4 and you die, you're going back to night 1. It's insane, and it's definitely nothing that I did. I watched somebody do it. Let's get out of my face. But when finishing it, we get a different newspaper clipping. This is describing how, after the disappearance of Sam, the police finally had plausible reasons to search the area, and when doing so, they found hundreds of bones found underneath the venue, including Sam's. When police would go to Steve's home for questioning, well, there would be no one there. But within his room, a window had shattered. The police would conclude that once Steve knew that he had been found out, he had a mental breakdown and was now on the run. But we all know what really happened. Demon Freddy seems to have finally broken out and attacked the one person who had previously made some deal with the thing. So now with the game's completion and everything seemingly out on the table, I think I can craft a story. I think I know what's actually going on here. Obviously, past the animatronics, the puppets themselves, we might be able to decipher why Sam Rodriguez was there and why it doesn't seem like he was only there for a report. It could have been something else. And we could talk about the puppets and what they are. We can talk about Steve Raglan's actions and what brought it forth. So let's get into it because I'm excited to share it. So the game starts with 2 passionate robot engineers. We have Steve Mitchell Raglan, that's his full name, and an unnamed founder as well who helped fund the whole project. This also resided within Colorado and had intentions of opening up a series of children-oriented restaurants under the name of Fredbear's Eatery and Fun. And in 1972, he had just done just that, and it took the entire business by storm. Everyone knew about it, everyone loved it. However, what's weird about this is that it is still unknown how Steve got the money to fund his lifelong dream, but within an interview, he pays thanks to a close friend who helped him, and even goes so far to say that none of this would have even been possible without their help. But when asked who the friend was, he refused to give a name. That starts to make me think that there was no friend at all, but instead maybe some deal went on behind the scenes, maybe a deal with the devil, or maybe a deal with an evil-ass spirit. It is very possible that Steve once worked a ticket booth, which isn't unheard of for owners of smaller businesses to work it themselves, but this is probably when he made the deal with the devil that this company or restaurant would be successful if he lured unsuspecting victims to work at his shop and have the puppets feed on them and keep them at bay. On July 7th of 1974, there was an incident in which the puppet Wolfgang tried to escape from the venue and suddenly burst into flames. Nothing remained but its bones, which was now used as an example of the other puppets of what would happen to them if they tried to escape. 2 things to note: that this is entry 175, so this is far from the first incident, so that means he's been doing this for maybe the entire duration of the 2 years that it opened into just this incident. And more on that point, it's also implied that the escape was maybe a form of foreshadowing for the game's ending. If the puppets are unable to feed, they can try and flee and feed upon those outside of the restaurant, or even worse, maybe the agreement can be broken if not fed in time. Sometime after, a child would sneak in the restaurant while it was closed. He was simply never seen again. Then in March of 2017, a health inspector would actually go to the establishment and find something hollow, something hidden beneath the establishment. And when she would go to check it, she would never be seen again. People started to look at the restaurant in a weird light due to so many disappearances of the staff and then the child happening around the area, and so they began to suspect Steve for foul play. Lots of time later, an employee by the name of Sam Rodriguez decided to work at a relatively new location in 2017. Of course, Steve would fail to tell him of the dangers, and yet Sam came back the next day. It is possible that we are having something similar happening to him that happened within the plot of the FNAF movie. Within the movie, the main character dude would dream, and he would get closer and closer to the truth behind one of the disappearances that he blames himself for. Within the graveyard shift, it is said that Sam was only hired due to not being able to sleep very well.
The only reason you got this job was because under your cons you mentioned, and I quote, you couldn't sleep well at night. So I'm sure you'll fit right in.
But honestly, that's just a theory I just thought about on the fly, so I'm more than inclined to think that he was just literally a reporter and he wanted to understand what was happening. I just think that's low-hanging fruit to me. I just feel like that's very superficial. Why would I do that for another job? I want to know, like, if I think there was something more to it. Otherwise, him not sleeping well, it just came off weird. Maybe, I don't know. And then entry 809, which is April 8th of 2017, and the day everything went wrong. Sam is taking way too long to die at this point. Steve has gotten used to what he's been doing all these years, however, it's weighing on him heavily. He doesn't understand why Sam keeps coming back and starts to believe that this is some form of irony or maybe even a sign of God himself. Sam's death is very much canon. Whenever you are killed on any night, a quick flash of either an entry or recounting or an interview plays out on screen. Steve talks about how he finds Sam's dead body in a state that the body was in. I believe this correlates to when Sam actually disappeared and their mother knew the fact that Steve had something to do with it, and that was that entire section of, I think, shift 3. And then they thoroughly gaslight her that she's wrong, but she was very right. Though, like before, the victim took too long to die and it was time up. After killing Sam and mutilating him brutally, Fredbear would escape, and this time Steve was unable to stop them from leaving. Later, it's revealed that Sam Rodrigo was actually working for TDR news station as a reporter and was trying to get an inside scoop of Fredbear's eatery and fun. After his disappearance, the police got involved and searched the venue and found hundreds of bones. And when going to Steve's house to arrest him, it had looked like he tried to escape, but in reality, he was targeted by the demon Fredbear, and now these puppets are seemingly out to run free and do as they please. Now there are two things I didn't talk about. Two things, because firstly, I just don't know where I'm going to take it, so hopefully you guys might have some cool theories, but I'm going to hit the one that I do know for sure. Firstly, what the hell are the puppets? Within the OG FNAF, we had the events like Bite of 87 or the missing children's incident, but within the graveyard shift, yes, we may have the same characters, yet it is completely different. There was never a Bite of 87. There was never any dead children. There was never a Michael Apton or a William Apton. None of that ever happened. Therefore, there was never any kids to take control of the animatronics or even get stuffed in them. These puppets are more aligned to the mascots of Poppy Playtime, minus the kids actually being the mascots, but the puppets seem to be organic creatures with a taste of blood and are practically starving beasts. It's pretty evident when the details like bones and the remains after the fire are present, and I mean just look at them, their bloodshot eyes, their way of moving, and most importantly, laughter. These things are alive and they enjoy the hunt. They enjoy being a menace. They enjoy causing terror and pain. These things are demons. But there is one thing that tricked me up. Secondly, there is an Easter egg of Golden Fredbear. Now, like I said, in the OG FNAF, we know about Golden Fredbear. There's a lot of theories on it. Actually, I don't really know concrete what it is. I believe last time I checked, MatPat had said that it was, there were two souls in it, and that's what was corresponding. It was like the first victim. No, Chica was the first. Maybe I should brush up on the FNAF lore, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, Golden Fredbear in this game seems completely different from the rest of them. It's actually an Easter egg that you can get with certain criteria met, right? I believe I saw on Reddit it said something about it being a 1 in 8,000 chance of it happening. They said it has to be on the third shift at like 3 a.m. It's very specific. But when it does happen, there's absolutely nothing you can do. But it's also noticeably much different from the rest. It teleports, it moves, it doesn't do what it's meant to do. And most importantly, its bloodshot eyes are hidden behind the darkened face of this figure. It really just kind of makes you question, like, what's actually going on here? Where are these things coming from? Because, as you know, Golden Freddy, he has always, like in the OG FNAF game, Golden Freddy was always looked at as weird because he was this one body that had a soul in it but didn't have an exoskeleton, right? So it couldn't move around, so it could only teleport. This one, it seems to almost try to save you, dare I say. It doesn't seem like it kills you, because the other ones, it kills you. Every time you get hit, it'll tell you what you did wrong, what you need to start doing, and then it'll say try again or go back to the main menu, and from there you can say goodbye or endure again, right? However, with Fredbear, with Golden Fredbear, once he scares you, you just go back to the main menu. Like you're booted out entirely. And I just wonder why that is. Is it like super meta? Does it understand that it doing that will in turn save Sam Rodriguez from forcefully booting him out of this place? I don't know. But I always wanted to try to figure it out, because it's obvious that Golden Fredbear has always been different from all the other animatronics. No bloodshot eyes, no laughter. It doesn't really seem to be doing this out of enjoyment, but out of necessity or maybe even instinct. So that was my final thing. But that is Graveyard Shift.